Hiya, plastic people. So today we'll get started on the Rook again, doing belts today. So you can see I've got the, maybe the desktop's not going to work, but I've got the instructions for the belts up on the desktop. For whatever reason it doesn't want to display. Now, that's the wrong one. Here we go. Some reason it lost it because I've undocked and docked the laptop a few times. All right, so we'll follow this, and I've also got the actual Rook guide up so we can use that supplemental. So we'll follow this here, and I'm just going to start with the top belt. As they mentioned in this one here, they talk about using the top belt, and then we'll cut the belt to length, match it up tooth to the other belt, and that way we'll have two equal length belts and get them going. I've got the bag with the belt here, and I've got some M3x6 button head screws to use to hold the carriage on, which I believe is the smaller here. They do tell you to make sure the teeth are facing out. And I'm going to go ahead and go through the back side here, since it's a good bit less to mess with there. They say to use a wire tie to hold it. So pull about 25 mil, so about an inch through there. I'm just going to use one of these rather than waste a zip tie. All it's got to do is hold the belt in place for us so it doesn't slip, which it's in there pretty good. I don't expect that to happen anyway. Alright, so I'm not going to worry about pulling it through there just because feeding it's going to be a pain, and I can eyeball it pretty well to see where we need to be. So that should be good. Pull this out of here. We'll measure our belts out. sure we are exactly teeth to teeth. And looks like we've got a whole lot of extra belt, which is fine. Maintenance down the road, or if you just mess up. And I've got extra belt in the cabinets. Definitely not something that you're not going to need. And I can see that I'm still lined up tooth to tooth all the way down. Luckily this is well underneath my arm span. And I still like using these binder clips to kind of hold it. Except they're not in my drawer anymore, I moved them. Get it matched up tooth for tooth. Now we should be the same length. Looks like I'm one tooth off. But it's easy enough at one tooth to just kind of verify and make sure that you get it back to just same length. So now we're the same length. I'm going to go ahead and put them both in here and loop them back a bit. Gotta make sure our belts are up the right side up. Okay. Let's see what I did with my binder clips. And be a lot easier to hold these two together with those. Well, I got small or big. I guess we're going to go with big. go. That'll let us get these even. While we get our screws on. I guess it won't matter too much because we're going to have to take it off again anyway. And we can get it even at that point. Because we'll have to take it off to get the other side in. Or at least loosen it, and we can get them even when we get it loosened. Right now it's about making sure we get the path right, not so much about tensioning or deracking. So get the path right first, then we'll get them all to the right length. Or to the right tension and such. Make sure they're nice and nicely on these bearings. And remember, we left these loose so they can slide back and forth. That will give us our way to tension them after the fact. All right. There we go. So our belt path is done. Let's get these even. And then they just show, thank you 3D Experimentals. The green is also UV reactive. Don't know where my UV flashlight is. So now we're going to get these belts even, and they just use zip ties to hold them in place. There's no clamp mechanism. But if you line them up, teeth will fit in each other, and you can just do it that way. I think I'd seen on online, I think I've seen some models for some slip-on clips that would probably work just fine. Very similar. I've got some, not using them, but I've got some on my 2.4 that for the Z belts, and those would work perfectly fine for these. Probably a ton of different ones that could be used out there, I'm sure. All right, those should be relatively even. It looks like they're the same length. Got a bag of zip ties for the other side here. May have to take the carriage off. It looks like that'll be the easiest way to get this done. And then these can always be trimmed down a little bit once they're in and tightened. You of course don't want to tighten them down too much or trim them down too much. You might you're going to have to take this on and off possibly in the future for maintenance, so you don't want to overdo the length and just cut it to the absolute minimum. You want to give yourself a little service loop basically. I'm going to tighten the right side down most of the way. We don't need it to be so loose. That way I can kind of pre-tension the left side a little bit with it loose enough to allow the belts to slip. And get our lengths right. Then I'll tighten it down. Should basically won't really cinch them in place, but it'll cinch them in place enough that they're not going to just slip right out of there and cause problems. There we go. And now we should be able to turn these. And we're off by a tooth, but we still have a little bit of play even with them tightened down. All right, they should be even now. No. Now they're even. Good. And that's not going to work. Make sure our belts are on the right path. A couple of them had come off of the pulleys. see a problem over here. Luckily, we don't have it tightened down yet. One of my bearings was upside down. Okay, there we go. Make sure all the rest are good. If I could mess up one, I'm sure I could mess up another. Okay, so we are even. We are all on our belt paths. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. Use my scissors so I can cut it at once instead of cutting both. There we go. Give this a wrap and tie it up. And the same with the bottom one. You do this side because it seems to be hitting. Don't want them to interfere, even though they should be traveling at the same pace. Okay, there we go. Belts are in. All right. So belts are in. Let's see, so we'll move on to the next step. Yeah, that's probably 25 mil, maybe a little over on either side. And I'm looking at it, some of this doesn't look to be quite as even. Left side's even, the right side seems a little off. Maybe I didn't pull it quite tight enough. Okay, that could be that I'm not quite as close to the block as I am on the other side. That is easy enough to fix. Alright, that one's fixed. Let's fix this one. Now we're pretty close to the same on both of them. And seems to be good still. They will need to be tightened up, of course. They're quite loose. Okay, now the route or mount the rookery. That's the two M3 by 16s to the top holes. So I've got this here, and I've got this. It's showing the cables out that way, and we're going in this way. M3 by 16s. Some of the clutter out of the way. The hot end. I don't know if we can see it. I didn't notice it before. It's got the Rook logo there on the top. I don't think you'll be able to see it in the once it's actually in the printer. Just something kind of nice to see. Okay, so we got them snugged down. And then they say place onto the X carriage and secure from the back. Okay, with a M3 by 8 button head. And there's also a little key up on the top here of the up on the top here that slides into the hole. M3x8 button head, which I do not see an M3x8 button head. Got an M3 socket head. Let's see if I've got one over here. M3x8 button head, okay. Okay, that's on there. All right. So that's on. That's the one we used. Now we're going to place the 4010s into the shroud, routing the wires through, and then mount the 3010 with M316s and nuts. So that will probably be easier here. So this will be our tool head here. There are holes, probably hard to see due to light. There are holes right up in here for the wires to go through. And of course you're going to have to feed the wires through first. There we go. So then that goes in. It says that airflow goes down. So we want to make sure that our exit is down, and then they just slip into place. No need for screws or anything else. And then we repeat on the other side. There we go. This one's easier because it doesn't have that little lip to worry about. And then again, airflow goes down, and it just pushes right on into place. All right. See what it tells us about this 3010 with 4 M316s, washers and nuts. I'm going to put it, of course, blowing this way so that it's blowing across, and I'm going to put the exit out the top. There are those. Our washers. I will put the screw through. I don't see CAD modeling on the screws there. Let me look at the actual Rook, the Rolohaun manual. Next will be that Z-belt. Okay, so he's showing the screws from the front. So you've got the front, oh, these are calling, that one's calling for button heads, which, yeah, this is calling for button heads. M316 button heads, not M316 socket heads. So, I don't see M316 socket heads in there. It's all right. And 4x12 button heads. See if I've got any button heads here that are M316s. I'm sure I've got some someplace. M316 button heads, there we go. And I've got just 4 of them. Oh, nope, I've got 5 of them. Okay. So we'll take this one, and go through. There we go. That looks like it's going to be a bit annoying. Get all the screws in, and that way we can do all the washers and nuts all at once. Kind of like the black here anyway, and all the ones that came with the kit seem to be the silver or nickel plated, so okay. Well, as tight as those are, I don't know if it's going to matter anyway if it has the nuts. All right. I don't think the washers are going to fit. I don't think they're strictly necessary either for what's being done here. Because it looks like there's just enough clearance that you won't have to hold the nuts either. There's just enough clearance for them to fit over the screw, and they'll catch on the side. Should just be able to hold it in place and get that started. or not. All right, well that looks like one. 3 more to go. The old hands don't quite fit in there. All right, 2 more to go. These might be a little bit easier with them being closer to the edge here where I got a little more room. Of course, they don't have to be all that tight anyway. They're just holding this fan in place so it doesn't move around or flop around. Maybe. There we go. All right. Now all 4 are in there. And then 2 M3x6 button heads. Put it on here. And they say to add the stress relief mount after with the same. But I'm going to go ahead and add the stress relief mount before we put it on there. And it says M3x6 button heads for that. I do not see any button head screws in there, and I don't see any M3x6s. That's all right. I've got plenty. Okay, and that is for our strain relief for the cabling. I'll take these. Get this mounted to the top up here. That's going to use these two. And while I've got it already there, let's go ahead and feed our hot end cabling through. Now we'll pull it out. It's got to fit over this shroud. I'm not quite sure how that's going to manage. Don't even think that will work. There we go. Having to pull the, use this cable strain for the hot end wires and bend it up a bit so that it'll allow this shroud to go over it. And then this is kind of keyed so that it slips on. See the keys there. There we go. And I see why they want you to put the shroud on first, but that's okay. That's what ball end wrenches are good for, or ball end drivers. All right, there we go. And then our cables can tie there for some strain relief. No 3D experiments. I printed everything in ASA. It's all Polymaker, Polylite ASA. The pop green for the green, and then I think it's just gray is what the gray is. I don't think they had any specific name for the gray. So we installed the Z motor last stream, since it was something that was easy to do. So we can get the belt done. That shouldn't be too big of a deal to do the belt. Definitely don't need anywhere near the amount of belt that we've got left. Let's see which way. And it looks like the teeth go in on the belt. Yeah, the ASA has been really good for me, especially the Polymaker. I've had a ton of good luck with the Polymaker ASA. And I've got profiles. I can print it on any of my printers without any issues, which is really nice. It just seems to work really well. And I didn't have anywhere near the cooling problems or the warping problems with the ASA as I did when I tried to do ABS the first time. So I've been really happy with it. And it goes for whether it's been the Polymaker or even the Prusament. The Prusament PLA that I've got worked out really well. That was what I used to print all the parts on the Trident. It was all Prusament ASA, and that stuff worked really nice. It was real easy on that one since it was all printed on my Mark III using Prusa Slicer and the built-in Prusament ASA. The Prusament ASA profiles. That helped, but I had to tune profiles for the Polymaker, so it definitely wasn't something that couldn't have been done anyway. Trying to keep my belt straight here. There we go. Do this a little different just to make sure I've got the right amount. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it all through. If I can get it right. And again, my Z belt or my Z motor is loose. So that when I pull it and try to tighten it while it is on here, I'll be able to do a final tension later. Well, if I can keep on the pulley, that will definitely help. I guess I could have laid it down. All right. There we go. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I've had nothing but good luck with the Polymaker. I don't want to say it's the only thing I use, but it is definitely a go-to. I might use some others, but if I know I'm going to need something, and I know I'm going to need it to print, and I don't have, haven't had time to test or play around with something, it is certainly a go-to. I have not tried their Pet G yet, so I'm not sure how good that is. I do have Prusament Pet G and really the Overture Pet G that you can buy off of Amazon or the Amazon Basics. Both of them have been good Pet Gs for me. So till I get a chance to try the Polymaker Pet G, I'll probably keep going with those. But I don't print a whole lot of Pet G, and the last few parts that I have been carbon fiber filled Pet G from Atomic Filaments. They've got a black, a blue, and a red carbon fiber filled Pet G. And it's nice to be able to have a color with that carbon fill. So I've been leaning on that normally when I want the Pet G parts. All three of those just look really nice. I'm not going to move it, but I've got a 3D printed turntable or record player that I used the black and the red on it. So it's kind of because of the carbon fill, it's kind of a cherry red. So it's a kind of a black red almost, and it looks really cool. I can't even remember the name. I want to say Songbird, but I don't think that's right for the name of that turntable. The only carbon fill I've used has been the Pet G and the ASA, and the Pet G worked out beautifully. The ASA came out pretty good. I think I have done maybe a PLA as well. I can't remember. I had the Maker Box or one of the fiber subscription. I had the Alien 3D for a while, and I had I think it was Maker Box is the other one that I was using, and that one worked out. I got some glass fill, carbon fill. I got some nylons. I got some stuff that I haven't been able to print well at all yet. Some polycarbonate and a couple other things like that. So that was in my first year or two of 3D printing, and I haven't revisited that stuff now that I have a little more knowledge and have played around with these a lot more. I need to go back and revisit those filaments, and luckily I've still got the samples, so I can do so. So we've got the Z-belt done, and so now we mounted the RPi, we mounted the MCU. I don't think I've got the fan that they're mentioning here. Okay, so I do have a mount for it, so if I've got one, I may go ahead and put one in there since the mount's there. And I think there's enough spots on the controller for it. I've got the Z end stop is mounted already. That was this one here. Springs. 3 socket heads using M3 washer and nut. It doesn't say what size. Just attach 3 socket heads to the bed. So let's use this one. And that's find where the bed attaches. I will definitely have to check those out because especially if they're going to be good prices. I love the Polymaker stuff, but hey, I'm all for supporting local businesses or semi-local businesses to me, rather than somebody across the globe. I don't think there's anyone close to Nashville making that kind of thing. So I'm going to have to ship it in from wherever. Maybe one of these days, Micro Center will bring one of their stores here, because they normally carry even if it's just their inland filament, they normally carry a good bit of filament as well as resin too in the stores. So that would be nice. Sometimes you just need a roll of filament, and I'd love to be able just to walk into a store and pick it up and not have to worry about either shipping or driving the 5 hours to get to. Or I think the closest one is Marietta, and it's still, I think, about a 4.5 hour drive. So if Slant's got their factory in Texas, that's almost overnight if I order it, so that's not bad. Well, I was looking to see anything better than on the bed placement, but I don't see it in either manual. So tell me what screws they want me to use. You would think it'd be right after this Z-belt adjustment, or Z-belt install and adjustment. But I am not seeing it. There's the hot end. And there's all the wiring stuff. So this just says attach 3 socket heads to the bed. Let's see where I got the bed. Well, at least with the belt on the Z-axis, it's not slipping and sliding. I guess we're going to VHB some Wagos to the back here, or underneath. I don't even see any standoffs. There's the springs, so those will be our standoffs. I've got M325s. There we go. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's these M350s. I don't see any other reason why you would have M350s. So we'll use these. That would be nice. Maybe I'll look at that. I don't think we've got any RC stores close by anymore. We had Hobby Towns, but all three of them have since closed. They might have carried it if they'd stayed open. This looks like it might be a little more fiddly part as well. Not so bad. All right, let's make sure my holes are big enough for the screws. Yeah, it's been they've been dropping here, especially those specialty type stores. You know, stuff like that just has a more limited audience, just does not tend to do as well as things that have a wider audience. But I hate to see it. And my father-in-law owns a jewelry shop, and of course that's, you know, a small local business where they're at. So that gives me good incentive to try to help the local businesses here, because having family that are reliant on that kind of thing really kind of makes you see things in a little different perspective. All right, there's two of them. Well, it says an M3 washer and nut. And I don't even see how these thumb screws are supposed to go on there. I would have thought there'd be room in here for the nuts, but they're a round cutout on either side, so I wouldn't trust that to tighten it down. I don't remember if I've got extras from my V0. Probably someplace have extra thumb screws that'll work on the M3s. I have not had the V0 bed have to be re-leveled, so I'm not too worried about, I might just tighten them down with the regular M3 nuts and deal with that. Let me look in my cabinet here and see. Maybe I've got something that either is meant for that or will at least work for that. Amidst all the other spare parts I've got. Looks like I might have one. And this might not even be an M3, it might be an M4. Yeah, that's an M4. Spare hot ends, spare Bondtech gears, whole bunch of spare screws. Nozzle socks. Wiring, we'll get to wiring next week, I expect. I don't see anything, so let's do the, let's just do the nuts, and that way we've got something to hold it on there, because next week we're going to have to flip it over. And definitely don't want to have to be messing with that. Let's see, washers, shims, heat sets. And I think a good way to do this be with my iFixit, since I've got a socket that will work. If I can get the right socket. I think I had the right one the first time. And that's too deep, it looks like. Now, main thing is going to be to hold this on. I'll just see if I can find a set of thumb screws to order. But I don't want this thing falling off while I'm moving it around either. At least it's starting to really look like a 3D printer now. I wouldn't trust the plastic on these to hold any tension on those. All right. So, power port's already in. Skirts will be last. And then pretty much that's the end of the Fabreeko, but we can go back over here to the or to the Rolohaun guide. Electrics will be all the same, and he's got the V3 is what he's using for that. So we'll just have to run our 3 motors, which I've got the cabling here for our hot end cabling. We'll do all of that next week. We'll get the wiring done, should be able to power it up. I do have the Pi already in. I'll have to create a power cable to go from the board to it. That should be the only connection needed to the Pi. Hopefully it looks like there's just enough room to get a SD card in. I'll also have to, of course, flash the main board. Do I have a fan? I have no problem running a fan underneath there, especially since I've already got the heat sets in as well. So we'll get a fan in here. I do have a fan. And they do show, actually they show it pulling across. So that should go in here. So as long as I've got enough fan headers on here, we'll go ahead and put a controller fan in the bottom as well. It did not come with one, but I've got extras. Just one of those things I think everybody probably has extras of. All right, and then our power supply will go in the front like that. So that'll be the last thing to go in, since you've got to get all this done before you can put that in. I may take my clamps and clamp this down with some acetone to kind of weld it to that bottom frame too. That way it's not popping up. Let's see if we can get this belt tensioned a bit better. So our Z motor is underneath here. Like we'll just use this hole here is what that is for our cable management. Z and stop. Well, that one moves, so we definitely need the extra cabling. I don't see any cable management for it, but we still also have the bed cabling that's going to have to go down as well. Let's get this tensioned a bit more. I mean, we're actually not too bad as it is, with just gravity doing the work. Surprised that it did not call for washers between these screws and the plastic. I think I've got plenty of them, so I think I'm gonna take out the ones on the top, the A and B motors, and put washers in. There we go, that should be good. And it's moving smoothly. So let's do that while we've got some time today. Get these done, and then we'll call it for the day, and next week come back. Probably dragging this out a lot more than I really need to, but there's always things to do. And it's not like I need this printer to be working right now. I currently don't have anything printing between all 5, 6 printers that are working currently. Printed a bunch last week and earlier this, well, I guess earlier this weekend. But yeah, it's not been going the last 2 days. I printed out some ukulele hangers to hang my wife's ukuleles up, and I used a wood-filled PLA for that, and they're down in the garage. Put some stain on them about 10:30, so right before starting the stream. So they might have soaked up the stain and might be ready for poly. They may not. Hopefully they'll look really nice once they're done. It just hit me that the stream cam's a lot lower. Can't really catch these up here. But I'm just taking the screws out one at a time and putting a washer in. And while I'm looking at it, while I've got it up here, double check and make sure that my belts are riding these pulleys well. This one needs to come up just a hair. It's going to be rubbing on the top if I don't. Get that swapped, and then we will tension the belts. This one is my flat. There we go. That one is okay. And neither one Seems to be racking, so that's good. Okay. There we go. So belts are maybe a little too tight on all three of them, but they're all good. All right, so I think we'll call it there for the day, and then next week will be the really fun part, getting all the cabling done, getting that situated. That's going to be a fun part. I'll have to make sure I've got all my cables and all my equipment to do all the crimps. But we're coming along. The head moves around nicely. You know what? Before we do go today, let's look and see. This didn't mention anything about the extruder. So we still have to do the extruder as well. It's not in here either. So let's see if we've got a guide for the Rookery tool head. Mini Sherpa. No, Mini Sherpa. Let's see if we can find that Mini Sherpa manual. Doesn't look like it'll be too difficult to put together. This is the Mini After Sherpa, so that's the direct drive version. Probably the one right above it. Yeah, it's getting there. Hopefully next week we'll have all the wiring done and we'll be able to at least power it up even if we're not able to get it running. So let's see, build instructions. This should be a pretty quick build, and it's all in like one It's all in like one little bag there other than the 3D printed parts. All right. So, yeah, this is the bag for it here. And then the 3D printed parts, which I'm not sure which one this is. And hopefully all of the pieces I need. Oh, well, I guess we might not be doing this one. It needs heat sets. I guess I can pull that out. That won't be too big a deal to do some heat sets real quick. Those look like they may be hardened steel Bondtech gears. So that looks like everything I need. And I've got, looks like 5 heat sets. If I can keep from running over my tripod, I can get to the this, and we can set up the heat sets. All right. Might want to put a heat set tool on it. Not in the manual, so I forgot completely about having to do the extruder. At least that did not get too hot before I realized it and cut it off. All right. You're welcome, 3D Experiments. Have a great one, and see you on the next one. I'm going to go ahead and get this done today and call it myself. they're quick and easy to get done, so makes it nice to be able just to do it real quick and move on to the next. Okay, so those are our 5 heat sets. Bearing needs to go in to this piece here. Looks like our only bearing, so that'll be easy to find. And as usual, a nice tight fit. There we go. All right. So this is the first time that I am putting one of these together. I've got a bearing is already on the shaft there, so we don't need to mess with that. Okay, but I do need to get the Bondtech gear on there. One of these, that one does not have the set screw. This one does. Now, I'll leave it on there for now. And we want to go with the filament path towards the big gear. And it is showing flush against the nylon gear here, so let's put it flush. And then we're showing the other piece and showing it in there. Okay, so we're taking this way, this is going through here. And there's the filament path. I don't really want to force it through there. So let's just take this off. Drop it in. There we go. And then we can tighten it back up. Make sure my flat's in the right spot here. Okay. And then we take this piece here and pop out that bearing that we just forced in there. It's going to go on there. like that. Okay, so that must be the bearing for the front. M3 by 16. Here we go. And those are going in from this side. I think that's the quickest I've ever put one of these extruders together before. The first time I'm putting together the Mini Sherpa, or Sherpa Mini, so that is nice and quick. And we still have motion. That's good. And I need to get a piece of filament. Oh, I've got white, white already out. That'd be a nice contrast with the colors we've got. And we're a little tight, so I'm gonna use my 2mm reamer and ream it out. I know the LDO kits come with the 2mm bit, so that's in my metric bit set. So now we should be able to go through there. So it doesn't seem to want to be going through the whole way. So I do appear to be lined up correctly. Now let's make sure it'll go through without the Bondtech in there. There we go. Still a bit rough. Might just be the end. There we go, much better. All right. Now we've got motion on our does seem a little tight, but I think it'll be all right once we get the other part in there. All right. That takes us up to here. Hi, Delmar. Yeah, I just got that. Thanks. I'll have to look for that front housing. Oh, this is the front housing that I've got is the one that came from the Fabreeko GitHub, so it should be the correct one, actually. I would hope it is anyway. Let's see if I've got grease. Okay. Overkill for a dab of grease, but what I've got at hand. I am not. I do need to check it because I know there was something there that was fixed. So I'll definitely have to check that. Let's see. So the next is put the guidler together. Should be a snap fit, it says. So this way, and then that'll go in exactly like that and snap in. Yeah, I'll once we, well, I don't think I'm signed in here. Let me look. Fabreeko. Let's go ahead and bring it up right here. Oh, I'm in the Voron Discord for Fabreeko. I need to find the actual Fabreeko one. And if you can't tell, I don't use Discord a whole lot, so. But don't they have a link on their page? There we go. That'll be easier than trying to search it out and find it. And other than the heat sets, at least those are pretty easy to get through. There we go. Delmar, did you have problems with your bottom panel? Oh, thank you. Uh, did you have problems with your bottom panel kind of warping a little bit? Mine's not bad. I think I can just fix it with either super glue or acetone. Okay, so I'm in there. In there, you have to. Let's go back to this one. See if I can find this shaft. Telling me to wave at you now. All right, I'm pretty sure I saw that shaft when I dumped all the parts out, but I'm not seeing it now. And this little thing is a lot heavier than you would expect it to be. All right. find this shaft real quick. Oh, that was... I got the ping. Oh, I'm already still on there. Okay, this one here, this housing. Go ahead and download that. And I'll have to load up the correct filament into the solid fork. And I don't think that's going to be a long now I don't have that. Is that the screw in? I don't have the screw in style. Do I? Okay. Yeah, it's a 42-minute print. And might as well heat that all the way. Get it going, and that way I can get that printed. And thank you for the message with the with it. I think I did get the right one, correct? The one from the printables. Let me find my messages. There we go. I think that might be different. There we go. Okay, so now I got the right one. Yeah, 44-minute print with that one. That's fine. I've got the printer warming up, both the bed and the hot end. So I will get that printed out, and I guess we'll work on it. I'll get it pretty much together. There was another thing. Was there another thing that I needed to change, or was it fine the way that it was? Other than that. All right. I guess I'm getting message from all the stuff going on in Nero's Discord. There is my green. No, I don't trust that thing. Need to make some room for printers. I've run out. It doesn't seem to be off. The white gear seems to be okay. So it's the pathing looks good. Of course, that might change when I get the other piece downloaded and ready to go. I am not finding the shaft that goes through the guidler right off. I'll double check. I don't see it anywhere on the floor or on the table. Let me get this printing. We're loaded and the chamber temp's only at 27°C. Making sure I got the green instead of the black that was printing before out those. All right. Give it a few minutes to get back up, to get the temp in the chamber up a little higher. I still need to submit the I still need to submit that serial request for the Trident too. So that's calling for a 3x20mm shaft. And I have one, but it's in the guidler. I do not see a second. I might even have one. If I don't see it, I might even have one. If I can't find where it went to, I probably have another in my mess of spares. That one's not 20mm. And there we go. Oh, those might not be 20mm. All these, one of them is bound to be the right size. It does say 20mm. That one is just short. All right, that might have to go if it's going to keep going like that. Yeah, I think I only found the one pin, but I had a spare. I didn't see a second. I thought I did, but I might have just been seeing the one. I've got spares, and I've got M3 screws as well, so just got to ream out the hole. It was tolerances weren't the greatest. And there goes the print. There we go. Get this on and we'll see how that path looks. It looked like it was all right, but we'll double check it. And I think we're nope, just waiting on bed to finish heating up so it can do the probe. That is that on? That's on. M3 by 8. I've got M3 by 14, so that's the ones that attach it to the printer itself. I'm going to have to pull this apart anyway, I'm sure, but may as well go ahead and get it together and we'll see how that is looking as well. All right, so that is together. It seems a little tight, so it may not be fully straight through there. Bring this one back in. See if we can get a good enough, get it to possibly. Yeah, it seems really tight right here. But it does, well, nope, maybe it is off just a little bit. And that is flush. It needs to be there. Maybe. Yeah, it might be a little off. But yeah, I don't think it should be moving it so well without that guidler on there. But it's definitely moving the filament through. Let's this on and see what happens. And let's change cameras, because as that starts going, the other one is sitting on top of it, it's going to start shaking. Now, was there a washer for the tension knob? I didn't see one. Okay, well, that is moving the filament through. And I see that, yeah, that won't go in. I'll look and see, I might have a washer for that. Yeah, I do. So I just need to finish that print, and then get that done all over again with the new back piece. All right, well, I've got a washer I'll put on there. I like to have one there anyway. And I've got extra nylon washers that'll work in one of my bags someplace. I see one in one of them already over there. All right, well, that's got to print before I can swap that out and be ready. So I think we'll leave it there for this week. And next week I'll get that, once that prints out, I'll get it all put back together again, just like it sits, so we can get that mounted onto the back of the printer here. I'm guessing that's, I'm not quite sure how that's even going to go on there, but we'll get that mounted. That way we can start printing. I'm guessing it goes either that way or that way. It's got to go that way. So once I get that printed out, I'll get the heat set swapped over and get that rebuilt, so that next week we're ready for just doing the wiring for the electronics, since they're already in there. And be good to go on that. Everything else is coming along pretty good. Yep. Thanks, Delmar, and thanks for the link, and get me with that right piece. Have a great time. All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping in and watching. I will get the next one posted as soon as I can, and we will see you then. Have a good one.